Next up in the What If series. What if Prince Naseem Hamed had beaten Marco Antonio Barrera? Now, I think the problem when you look at Naseem Hamed's career is that it started to sort of unravel after he left Brendan Ingle. I remember reading a couple of interviews, this is a while ago now, and there were individuals that thought that Hamed started to slowly decline past the age of 21. Apparently he always hated roadwork, and when he was defending his European flyweight title, he was in the dressing room warming up and there was practically no entourage. It was just him there, dedicated fighter, obviously all the way down at flyweight. Bring it round to featherweight. Now I know that Hamed turned over at 18, but by the time he was 21 up at featherweight, he was 9 stone. The jump from fly to superfly to bantam to super bantam to featherweight, to me that suggests more than just naturally growing. I don't think he was doing the same amount of road work and conditioning when he was at 9 stone as he was earlier on in his career before he'd really sort of found success. So he fought Steve Robinson, looked great against Robinson. And then in his subsequent title defences, I know he was put down by Daniel Alessea. And he went tooth and nail with... he went life and death with Kevin Kelly in the greatest fight between two southpaws of all time. And obviously then we meet Barrera. By this time he'd left Brendan Ingle. He'd trained with Manny Stewart for a bit. You could see small adjustments in his style. He looked a more conventional fighter while he was training under Manny Stewart and Oscar Suarez. But before that fight, 8 weeks from the fight, Hamed was weighing 11 stone. So he was weighing in the region of 154 pounds. And he needed to come down to 126 to make the featherweight limit. He says it himself, the entire 8 weeks was dedicated towards losing that weight. So he wouldn't have been in top condition in the ring. And we've all seen the Barrera fight. Some people like to say online that it was a schooling. It wasn't really a schooling. Hamed lost by 4 rounds. It was an untidy fight. Barrera didn't show him any respect, which I thought was a brilliant tactic. And yeah, he got a fair decision over the Prince. But if Hamed would have won that, going as he was, he would have probably faced maybe Eric Morales. I know that Juan Manuel Marquez was a WBO mandatory at the time. Or there was mention of a super fight with a burgeoning Floyd Mayweather. Maybe super fight wasn't the correct term, because Floyd Mayweather would have been a super featherweight title then, and not a big enough name in the sport to call it a super fight. But what happens if you beat Barrera and then you get to any one of those three? I don't think any sort of hands down style would have worked against Mayweather. I believe that he would have lost it. Hamed would have lost that fight. Marquez, a great counterpuncher. I believe he would have beaten Hamed more widely on points than Barrera did. And against Morales, who knows? I think I probably would have picked Morales as well, because this wasn't a dedicated Hamed. This wasn't a hungry Hamed. But if he'd stayed with Brendan Ingle, what would he have done? I think he would have beaten Barrera. It might be an unpopular opinion, but I think he would have beaten Barrera if he was still with Ingle, if he was still dedicated to his craft. He might well have beaten Morales if he'd have fought him afterwards. Marquez, I'm not so sure. Marquez, hard as nails, counterpuncher, nobody's fool. I think that could have been a very close fight. And I don't think that he would have beaten... I don't think even a disciplined Hamed would have beaten Floyd Mayweather. I don't think that hands-down, limbo-style defense would have been very effective against hands as fast as Mayweather's when he was the super featherweight world champion. But Hamed, unfortunately, for me, he's a case of what if. He won 3 alphabet titles. It would have been 4. He would have been the first to have held all 4 if Wilfredo Vasquez Sr. hadn't had to relinquish the belt prior to their fight. But you still get the feeling with Hamed that he had the potential to do more than he did. He was retired by 28. I know he came back and fought Manuel Calvo and won the IBO title, but it clearly wasn't there anymore and he retired for good afterwards. But I still think that a disciplined Hamed could have been what he wanted to be. Early on in his career, he prophesied that to be a legend, he wanted to win numerous world titles at different weights. And I think he had the potential to do it, but sadly, he never realised it. If that would have happened, I think you're talking about the best British boxer that we've ever had. Right up there with Jimmy Wilde, right up there with Lennox Lewis, Joe Calzaghe. I think Hamed would be surefire amongst those, maybe even above those. But unfortunately, it was a case of what if. Let me know your thoughts, guys. If you agree or disagree, stick it in the comments and we will have a good old natter about what your thoughts are. Until next time, I will catch you again. Take care.